Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at how to code a DEXA report using BetterLetter. So first of all, quick refresher. DEXA stands for Dual Energy X-ray Absorptiometry, and these scans are carried out to measure bone mineral density. So essentially they help us to determine the strength of a patient's bones, their susceptibility to fractures, and whether they have bone weakening conditions such as osteoporosis and their risk of developing this in the future. So DEXA scans are typically carried out on three areas of the body: the lumbar spine, the femoral neck, and the hip. And depending on the clinical reason for referral, they may have all three areas scanned, or maybe just one or two of them. So don't be surprised if the report only covers part of this list. So the results from a bone density scan are usually used alongside a fracture risk assessment. And the difference in bone density is calculated as a standard deviation, or SD score. So there are two main scores you need to know about. We have our T-score and our Z-score. Our T-score is the difference between the patient's measurement and that of a young healthy adult, and our Z-score is the difference between a patient's measurement and that of someone the exact same age as them. Now a little bit more information. The World Health Organization classifies T-scores as follows. So anything above -1 standard deviation would be classed as a normal report. Anything between -1 and -2.5 standard deviations would indicate a mildly reduced bone mineral density. And then anything at or below -2.5 standard deviations would be indicative of osteoporosis. So coding DEXA scans can be a little bit tricky because there are very specific codes for each body part that's being scanned. But don't worry, once you've done it a few times, it all becomes a lot easier. So let's actually kind of get into coding this letter. First, we need to think about the letter type and the department. Like other radiological procedures, a DEXA scan will come in the form of a report. However, in BetterLetter, we have our own letter type of DEXA scan, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that one. Now, department-wise, both rheumatology and trauma and orthopedics both carry out DEXA scans, as well as radiology. So this will depend heavily on the context of the letter, specifically the department and the consultant's speciality. So have a dig and investigate before adding the department. Now the letter type will trigger the encounter summary to be a report, and then you can free text DEXA scan in the text box. Now for the actual coding. So not everything in these reports will be relevant or codable, but there are specific codes we always add to DEXA scans that are replicable across all DEXA reports. First of all, we need to add the procedure type to show everyone that the scan has been carried out, and we use this code, Dual Energy X-ray Absorptiometry. Next, we need to record the actual findings, the T-scores and the Z-scores that we talked about earlier. So these scores differ depending on the body type scanned, and to capture this accurately, if we have a full DEXA report, we need 6 codes in total, 3 T-scores and 3 Z-scores. If your report is only focusing on 1 or 2 of these areas, you will need less. But essentially, we need a T-score and a Z-score for each area scanned. A quick way I like to find each of these scores is typing in the region that's been scanned and either typing in the T or the Z, and that will bring up a code for you to free text the value. And we're just going to do that for each of the regions and each of the scores. So we're just popping in that one, that's -1.4. And now we're going to do the Z score of the femoral neck. Now finally, the hip scores. So we've got our T-score here of -0.7. And then we're just going to grab our Z score of 1. Now the bot's just added in some general values and observations, so we're going to go ahead and approve those. And now we need to add in the classification from the report. So this would be a diagnosis if the DEXA scan indicates that. So I'm just going to grab that, and then I'm going to pop in the region in which they have the diagnosis. So this would be the spine and the femoral neck. Now we need to decide where we're going to send the letter. It will differ slightly based on practice-specific conditions, but generally, if it's within a rheumatology clinic letter, we workflow that to the GP. If it's within an orthopedic with no tasks, we file it. If it's in a clinic letter with tasks, we workflow that to the meds management, GP or reception team depending on the specific task. And if it's a standalone report, we workflow that to the meds management team. And that is how you code a DEXA scan using BetterLetter. So like I said before, it seems like a lot of codes, and when you first look at the report, it does look a little bit overwhelming. However, once you get into it, it becomes a lot easier. So if you guys found this helpful, please make sure that you like this video and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more coding tutorials. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!